All right, welcome back to another episode of the More Than Outdoors podcast, the podcast where we explore the people, places, and passions that drive Maine's outdoor recreation economy. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Austin French,
And I'm Sam Andrews.
and we have another special guest coming on to the podcast today. Zach, thank you so much for jumping on. I know we're going to get into your intro, but first, Sam, where are we today?
We are in Payson Park in Portland because Zach and I actually have an inclusive ski touring volunteer training this afternoon. So it's not our typical backdrop for an inclusive ski touring episode, I'd say, but double dipping and excited to see 35 volunteers tonight, and that's just half of our volunteer crew for the season ahead. So it just so happened we were both in Portland and all in Portland.
Yeah.
Austin came down for this and ready to do an episode. So thank you again, Zach, for being here.
Yeah, thank you both for having me. Totally. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So quick, for the folks that are in our audience and maybe don't know who you are just yet, they're going to know a ton about you by the time we get to the end of this episode. But for those who don't know you yet, what's your quick pitch of who is Zach?
That's kind of a loaded one. I guess I'll focus on the inclusive ski touring side of things, but I'm an individual who has a passion for outdoor recreation. I grew up skiing and snowboarding, and that sort of developed my love for the mountains. When I was 14 or so, I started backcountry skiing, and I had mentors who showed me the way, and really just saw a need to create a more accessible community and provide opportunities for others. So I care a lot about just access to outdoor recreation and being able to provide opportunities for others in that capacity. On more of an individual side of things, I'm definitely a very passionate skier. I love mountain running, biking, really anything in the outdoors. It's like twist my arm, I'm probably up for it, or at least to give it a try, and I like to push myself. But I also really love to see others be able to do the same. And I'm a big proponent of, for skiing, for example, the best skier on the mountain is the one having the most fun, and I truly believe that. So
yeah, totally. And you've really built a community around ski touring, and it's just been so cool to watch. I think it was 5 years ago now.
Yep.
And I remember kind of following along on social media and then volunteering with IST and just being I really want to be next to you. And I wanted to learn from you, and I was just really impressed with all of the work that you were doing. And so I've been volunteering with IST for so long now, but I feel it's pretty cool to merge the worlds of the podcast, which has been a passion project, with another passion project of working with IST in a volunteer capacity throughout the past few seasons. So this is my fourth year of being a board member of IST, and then I've been managing all of the volunteers for the past 3 years as well, which has been really special because we have so many that community I was talking about. The community aspect that you've built is amazing, and the people that are a part of inclusive ski touring and really give back they're just really good people, and they're coming from all different corners of New England. So I think it would be important to share a little bit about what is ski touring. I think a lot of people have an idea about it, but there's ski touring, there's split boarding. What sets it apart from Nordic skiing or downhill skiing even?
Yeah. So, there's definitely a couple of different names that things go by, whether it's ski touring, split boarding, AT gear, alpine touring, backcountry skiing. It's all really within the same sort of bucket. So really the difference between touring, we'll say overall, is a broad spectrum, and alpine skiing or cross-country skiing is that in simple terms, it's sort of a combination of the two of them. So on the uphill, you are your bindings have a special sort of walk mechanism where you're able to have a free heel, similar to cross-country skis, and you overlay what are known as skins on the bottom of your skis. So you put the skins over your skis and you're able to walk up the mountain like that. So I should start with, ski touring does happen, on either an alpine skiing resort or in the backcountry. You are climbing a mountain. It's not on flat terrain or rolling terrain. You're going up for a prolonged period of time to then have a continuous descent. So the uphill is really the touring portion. Once you get to the top, you're able to change your gear back over and clip in like your normal alpine skier or snowboarder and enjoy the turns going back down. So it's an opportunity to one, really earn your turns and be able to, have a deeper appreciation on that side. Also get out before resorts open, enjoy some fresh corduroy, share it with others, have health benefits, but also an opportunity to get out into the backcountry to, sort of widen your opportunities for exploration, for adventure, and hopefully, when we get fresh snow, to be able to get out and enjoy the best conditions that the East Coast has to offer, wherever you are has to offer.
Yeah. I, there's somebody flying a kite. It's so
Love
great.
Love that.
What I really enjoy about touring is the physical aspect where you're getting warm and moving your body, and it's a slower pace, so you have a moment to actually like sit with nature. Well, not sit, but you're walking with nature essentially, and you can notice the birds and like have a conversation with the partners that you're with. And
Absolutely.
so that's been something I've really enjoyed about it, and I think a lot of other people also look at it as like skiing is a really expensive sport, and like ski touring is no different, don't get me wrong, but like the investment that you make up front is your equipment, and then ideally you're in the backcountry and you're not paying as much for a ski ticket or a season pass. And I know that there are uphill fees associated with different mountains, but they're minimal compared, $15 compared to like $150 at a resort. So that's been a big thing I've noticed, where people are shifting from the downhill skiing to the backcountry for all of the reasons that we just listed, but also some, like, it is a little bit more affordable in that sense. And then there's a crazy skill set that goes into it, so we could talk all day about it. I'm kind of curious, like, I know the answers to all of these, but for somebody who doesn't know much about inclusive ski touring, like, what do we offer to participants? And there's so many different places that you offer programs, and talk a little bit about that, and then the educational side too.
Absolutely. So, I'd say that there's really three key portions to our programs. I'll step back for a second and say that we offer on-resort programs and backcountry programs. So first I'll focus on the on-resort programs here, and then we'll get into the backcountry programs where the educational pieces are a little bit different. But the on-resort programs are really the core of our offerings. And sort of the three pillars that I'd say make up these are, one, building community. That's something that's incredibly important to me. It can be really hard to find friends in these spaces. It can be hard to find partners to get out with, and especially when you have a passion, to share something like ski touring or splitboarding, to be able to meet other folks who like to do it. There's also the portion as far as learning, just base education. How do you get out? How do you know the gear? How do you use things? What do you do at the top? And being able to answer some of those core questions to get people comfortable to get out on their own, and hopefully have developed, some community along the way. The third piece of it is really tied into that previous portion, but it's just a place to ask questions, to knock down those hesitations. I think everyone who's been ski touring can reflect back on when they first started, and it's like, what were your fears at that point in time? Everyone had fears of getting out or something that they weren't certain of. So yeah, there's an overall education piece, but there's also a just like knocking down those fears and like individual self-confidence piece. So building up that self-confidence, providing the education to be able to get out and know how to use your gear safely and competently, and hopefully develop some friends to be able to share it with.
Absolutely.
And then on the backcountry program side, we offer these. So these programs we offer an intro to backcountry program, as well as an intro to ski mountaineering and snowboard mountaineering program. And these programs are designed to get participants into the backcountry. And the intro to backcountry program, really for one of their first experiences, we do suggest that folks have been touring before, maybe on resort, but to be able to get out and show them what's possible with their current skill sets, be able to provide a further path forward for future education. So, if you get online, you can read. A lot of folks think that they need to take an ARI course, for example, before they ever step out into the backcountry. And the reality is, well, yes, you should take an ARI course, especially if you're interested in getting up into avalanche terrain and recreating in some of those places. If you're looking to ski the Sherburne Trail, you don't need to take an ARI course. You need to have key other knowledge to be able to do so safely and competently, to have people to share that with. And we want to provide that knowledge and give people a clear educational path forward on what else they need to do to meet their own individual goals on an educational path.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me because, like, we have, especially since COVID, we have seen on-resort touring just like blow up at Sugarloaf. Like, it is amazing to me because a lot of the times our like uphill route is very similar to some of the terrain that like we tend to have ski lessons going on, right? Because it's not incredibly steep. Like you're not going straight up the center of the mountain, right? So, and it's really cool just to like see that whole additional community that like I have plenty of people that I get connected with in the lift line, and I'm never going to see that person there.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And yet, like all of a sudden, everybody gets up to Bullwinkles and they've enjoyed their hike, and maybe they grab a drink or whatever the case happens to be before they do their descent, right? But it's really unique, and it's a totally different perspective on how you look at like engaging with those environments, which is really, really interesting.
Well, and I think people lean on the resorts throughout the season because we live in New England, and the consistency of the snowpack in true backcountry settings is really not there. Especially for like we're talking varying abilities of skiers, and so it makes it really challenging to get out and tour all season long. So I think a lot of people who are just getting into it, they just got a setup, or they live close to the mountain, or they just want to get some exercise for the day. They lean more on the resort touring than they would going into the backcountry. And I find myself doing it sometimes too, because I'm like, oh, I know that the snowpack is so inconsistent right now, and it just like what we have Friday incoming, a lot of rain, and it just changes things. So
the resorts have the infrastructure that's needed to be able to go out and do so consistently, to know that you're going to have good terrain to ski down on. You might not be getting lucky with a powder day, for example, or untouched snow, but you could have a fresh groom, or at least terrain that is going to be consistent. They have snowmaking, they have access, and Uphill New England is a multi-mountain uphill seasons pass that provides access to I think 24 different resorts now. So it's really a growing sector, and it's incredible to see more individuals taking advantage of those opportunities to get out on resort, and also recognizing that it is a privilege to tour on resort, and it is not just like a right. You can't be there without paying for it. You are going to that resort for the added infrastructure that they have, that they've invested in, so you can get out and do so, and there's a reason you're going there instead of the backcountry, even if it's 100% convenience factor. And that's definitely a needle I've seen shifting over the last couple of years, of people recognizing that that is a privilege, of following those uphill policies, of respecting the mountain's boundaries, and making sure that they are paying for their uphill access.
Yeah, there's a lot of education around that I think has improved over the years, because initially when the sport kind of started to blow up, not a lot of people understood that there actually weren't boundaries made by the resorts yet, because they hadn't really seen the people touring. And now, because there's so many, I think they have to make adjustments and kind of educate people on what their boundaries are, and paying for a ticket to use their infrastructure, like you said. Like, the reason they have a great snowpack is because they are making snow, and making snow is not an inexpensive thing to do. You also have patrol that are, at your whim if anything were to happen. And so what I love about IST, and we call it IST often, which we haven't mentioned it once in this podcast episode yet, but there's a progression, and it's like a natural progression to get into the sport. And so what I think is our programs are kind of this entry into the sport. You're building your community, and then as you continue to attend our programs, you look at the next natural progression, might be our Intro to Backcountry program, where you're skiing up the Tuckerman Ravine Trail and skiing down the Sherburne with a group and a guide. So we have a hired guide that leads that. And I feel like that's a next step to be able to enter the backcountry without going alone and kind of like making guesses. And I mean, if any of you have hiked, even without ski touring, have just hiked into the Tuckerman Ravine Trail, like that is a wilderness setting. So it's a big shift if you're just getting into backcountry skiing and then jumping into true backcountry and into a wilderness setting. Like, you need to have the layers, you need to have first aid. There aren't patrol. I mean,
Washington's a bit of a unique situation,
yeah, it is,
but in the backcountry overall, you should be planning to be fully self-sufficient.
Yes,
and how do you
exactly.
have the confidence to do that? And it's not as simple as just saying, okay, I'm going to go out and do this and like learn from there, because the reality is mistakes in those settings could be incredibly costly.
Yes.
And so making sure that you know how to do so safely and responsibly, and knowing where you can go are key pieces of that. And we definitely try to provide that sort of next step. So
Yeah, and then the education that comes along with going on the tour, you're with other people who are also into it. You can talk to the guide who has a great experience and kind of learn, okay, what is an ARI course? What is the education that I might need if I want to go beyond Hojo's, Hermit Lake Shelter and ski into the bowl? And I think we're just starting the progression of backcountry skiing and getting people excited and building their community. But for people who don't know, like, what is an ARI course?
Yeah, an ARI course. I'm not entirely certain what the acronym is, if it is an acronym, but an ARI course is an avalanche education course. So there's a couple of different levels of avalanche education. There's like ARI 1, ARI 2, Pro 1, Pro 2, things on that side, but it's really designed to be able to provide people with avalanche education so they can get out and recreate in avalanche terrain as safely and responsibly as they feel. There's a lot of risk management and risk mitigation that goes along with that. So I will say, a lot of people, and myself included, kind of go in thinking you're gonna be able to learn like, oh, there's gonna be a pretty clear like yes or no, I can ski this terrain or I can't, and that's not the reality of it. You really go in and you learn, okay, here's what I need to watch for, here are all these different factors that contribute, here are the different types of avalanche problems, this is what I need to go out and look for, and I need to weigh that against my own personal risk tolerance and what I feel comfortable doing based on the associated risk and potential positive outcomes. Like skiing a wide open powder field that's in avalanche terrain does have a very positive upside of getting to ski that terrain and ski something that's steep and fun with a ton of powder. It could also have the potential downside of being an avalanche that could be large enough to bury you or carry you into some potentially consequential rocks or whatever terrain might be below. So you got to outweigh that risk with the potential reward and decide what is comfortable within your own risk tolerance.
Well, I think the piece I love about this the most is, as I'm listening to the two of you talk, I think the biggest piece for me is being able to put some like tangible feeling to the seriousness that comes with these activities, right? Like, for us on like the traditional downhill side, like we all talk about like, oh, there's the inherent risk statement that's on the back of your lift ticket, and everybody's like, oh yeah, okay, it's kind of dangerous. But like when you're out in these environments, like all of the sort of hand holding, things that you would have at a resort don't exist, right? And I appreciate the fact that like whether it's you guys running these types of programs or like we do one in the seasonal programs at the ski school with Sugarloaf. I have 15 kids this year, age 11 to 15, that are in like an uphill focused group. So they do a bunch of downhill days, but then there are plenty of days where my two coaches that coach in the program are just taking them out to all of these different places within and around the resort to get them that much more comfortable with those types of things. Because for those families, a lot of the times the parents are already doing it and they're like, well, I want my kid to be able to do it so that way they can also be proficient in going into some of these more backcountry areas. And that's like, there's a fine line of like how soon that can become really consequential, to your point, and having some of that intro level programming, so just so that way there's a level of visibility of like, please understand you are going into environments where things can go wrong, right? They do all the time, not everything is the amazing ski movie where like everything was totally fine and everybody got down to the bottom and everybody's high-fiving and hooting and hollering because the run was amazing. Like there are plenty of days where they didn't end up filming that movie because the conditions weren't just right, or they didn't have something that they liked based off of reading snowpack, whatever it was.
You make some fantastic points there, Austin, and I will say too, like, at the same point in time, as much as all that is true, some of what we want to do is knock down some of the fears that are associated with it, because all those considerations are certainly there, and you certainly need to be aware of that. At the same point in time, it's so beneficial for people to know, where they can go without having the larger avalanche considerations, knowing that, ski touring can be as simple as finding like, power lines in your backyard or, in your local area that has a slight slope and taking a walk up it to ski back down it. In that situation, is there patrol around? No. If you break your leg and you're by yourself, is it a bad situation? Yeah, absolutely. But So knowing to be prepared, having medical equipment, having some base knowledge on that side of things, and really just having a plan, recognizing that you can't call ski patrol, but also knowing that where you can go and recreate for the enjoyment of it. You don't need to push boundaries further than what's comfortable. On a resort, you might decide to hit a jump, or whatever risk you might take, but you have the added benefit of ski patrol, of safety sides of things. Whereas in the backcountry, you might be a little bit more reserved in your skiing and decide, okay, I'm going to pull this back. I'm not going to, attempt these things, and I'm going to be very safe and conscious in the way that I'm going down this terrain. But we really want to show folks and provide the opportunity to get out, do so safely, and realize what they can do that is safe within their current skill sets, and if they're interested in getting up higher or doing more, on how to do so safely, because everything that we're talking about can seem so overwhelming, and so like there's so much information to take in, and I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, sometimes I start looking at this sort of stuff and I'm like, it's too much. I don't have capacity for all this. I'm too busy with work, too busy with life, a little free time, I want to like go and do the things I already know. So we want to simplify that process, make it streamlined, make it straightforward, and be able to help provide opportunity and access the best of our ability.
Yeah, I think the before our programs is understanding the equipment that goes into it and the gear, because that also can be so intimidating to people, just because there's so many different options, and it's like, what does it take to actually get out on snow and go ski touring? And so the great thing about our programs is we're partnering with different mountains that offer the rentals. And so people can kind of try out the equipment beforehand, see what they like, see what they don't like, and just get a feel for it. And maybe it like, is this something that you actually want to get into and invest in the equipment?
Yeah. I mean, we certainly have people join the programs who join one time, get to try the equipment and decide that's not for me, and I'm not going back. And honestly, I don't see that as a failure whatsoever. That person was interested enough to go out and try the program. They didn't spend, X amount of money on a touring setup to only realize that they didn't like it after buying a touring setup. They went out, they had the opportunity to try it, and they decided, hey, this isn't actually for me. That's great. They still got the chance to try. They had the opportunity to get out, and they made that decision. So, we have that side that I think is fantastic. And yeah, we definitely, we try to offer programs at an array of different locations. And I guess I'll press pause on that one for now, because I think we'll dive more into that.
Yeah, I mean, perfect time to share a little bit about that. I mean, we have a lot of growth this year, which I feel like is an awesome thing to celebrate, because we're a small nonprofit. And I think being able to do what we do at the capacity that we do with the small team we have is pretty amazing. So when we talk about these programs, we've talked about, on resort and backcountry. So where are on resort programs?
Yeah, so this upcoming season, we are offering on resort programs almost every weekend, January through March, at Mount Abram in Greenwood, Maine, as well as the Dartmouth Skiway. It's in the Upper Valley of New Hampshire. I'm spacing on the exact town of it. We also offer programs at Cranmore, which is in North Conway, New Hampshire, and Bromley, which is in Peru, Vermont. Bromley is our newest location this year, and our first location in Vermont, so we're really excited about that.
Yeah, that'll be really sweet.
Yeah, so each of those locations, we, have programs pretty much every weekend with the exception of Bromley. Bromley has a couple of programs for the first season, and we hope to build on that for the future. And then as we can, we sprinkle in an array of different, more niche-specific programs. So we offer, queer on-resort programs, trans on-resort programs, BIPOC programs. This year, Sam, this is going to be new information to you. We're working on a master's program as well, so a day that's, 50 plus. Because we do have a good bit of demand from folks in that sort of age category, and we want to be able to provide that space. Also looking at potentially hosting a deaf-specific touring day to be able to provide a little bit more access in the adaptive world. And really just always looking to expand our horizons and make sure that we can provide opportunities for people at our different resort locations that are going to feel safe and welcoming for them and the communities that they want to be a part of. Yeah.
Yeah, so for these kind of like affiliate programs where we're working with different partners, who are some of the partners, and like what's the audience for those groups? I know you mentioned we have some like queer and trans and BIPOC, and it's like these are all groups of people that are naturally or have been underrepresented in the sport. And so I think IST, that's like the one thing that we do really well, is like creating a space where it feels very welcoming and a great place to learn and meet new people. And So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, as we sit here, in the programs you just listed off, I am a cis white male individual, and I try to recognize a lot of the privilege that I have, and under no illusion that I should be the ones organizing these programs or doing every bit of it. But I have a vision for these programs, and I want to help provide access. So for each and every specific affiliate day, we really try to have a partner organization or individual who is directly engaged with those specific communities to be able to meet those communities best at where they're at and ensure that the access is there, and that it is going to be a welcoming and safe space for everybody within that. In the queer programs, for example, we partner with Kindling Collective. They're a queer-centered gear library based actually right here out of Portland, Maine. For BIPOC programs, we partner with Marty Fuller very often. We're also chatting with a gentleman, Jordan Revis. I apologize, Jordan, if you listen, and I messed up your last name. But a recent conversation actually last night with Jordan, and he's going to get a little bit more involved with our BIPOC programming this year. And,
Nice.
Whatever affiliate day it is, we really, like I said, just look to find partners within those specific places to be able to provide the most opportunity and make sure that those programs are organized. A BIPOC program, for example, that it's organized by BIPOC individuals for BIPOC individuals. I see my role in those positions as being able to provide the support and access that's needed, and making sure that everybody has the tools that they need to be successful within it, but empowering others to be able to help, facilitate those days.
Yeah, which is a big part of our massive volunteer crew. We have over 85 volunteers for this season that make our programs go on, and a lot of them are representative of those groups of people. And so it's awesome to know that we have that representation at our programs, and so it's not just one of us out there, and there are people who understand where they're coming from, what background they're coming from, and can kind of bring that into the tour and that experience. So
that's one of the things that from my side has been so special to see over the last few years is, at first we were super limited, and it was like, okay, who is a member of these communities or an ally of these communities, and trying to be realistic of, okay, again, to use the BIPOC space as an example, BIPOC population in Maine is very low. I'm not going to try to quote statistics off the top of my head here, but then we take that a step further and put that into winter outdoor recreation, and it's even lower. And then we take that a further step into touring or backcountry skiing and riding, and we're getting down to we could probably count on all of our hands put together the amount of individuals within a specific space or within the state of Maine who are very comfortable to lead others or help share others in this space. So being 5 years into inclusive ski touring now, we've developed a volunteer base where we have so many outstanding volunteers of so many different communities who want to help provide these opportunities and create this access, and that's something that's been really incredible to see. And on my individual standpoint, it's just so exciting looking at the season ahead and organizing these days and thinking, wow, so and so is going to absolutely love this day, or just knowing intuitively oh, we're going to have 4 or 5 different volunteers who are thrilled about this program who maybe attended a program of ours a few years ago, and are now coming back to volunteer with us and helping provide this towards others. So it's really amazing to see.
There's a lot of reciprocity involved, and I have the pleasure to go through all of the applications for the volunteers, and I get to learn about why they're interested in volunteering with us. And a lot of it is I went to multiple programs. I went through the intro to backcountry program. I was motivated to get my ARI 1, and I've been backcountry skiing, and now I want to give back to this group. And so that's really special that we have that kind of culture, and it seems that the retention of volunteers is also a really impressive thing. People want to volunteer year after year because it's a really good group of people. It's just we mean really well, and the vibes and energy from the programs are really awesome. If you haven't been to a program, you're interested in doing this, I really suggest it, because it's just so much fun, and the people that are there are really kind and outgoing and welcoming, and you learn so much. Even if you feel like you already know everything, you can be really experienced in backcountry skiing, but just come for making friends and kind of seeing what it's about. So this is our plug to get Austin on the snow.
I'll come. I have
to after we record a podcast.
I literally,
it's kind of like an obligation.
It's so funny. I was thinking about this as you were saying something earlier, and I'm sitting there, and I'm I have a pair of touring skis and pair of shift bindings that I've already slapped on them. I have skins that are still in the box, right? Have not used them. And so who knows? Maybe this is the year that they finally get
This
broken
is
out.
the
I was
season.
gonna say it's
Yeah.
not a maybe, it's a yes. This
It's
is
happening.
What,
Yeah.
I'll give you my calendar. We'll figure out a time. We'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
let's do it. Yeah. It's
Well,
awesome.
so one thing I'd be curious about, I know like you guys have been rolling this out like over the last 5 years, you know, and you talked about some of the things that, you know, you're really excited for this year. But like, what's that vision? Like, talk to me about 5 years from now. Like, what are the things that you want to see happening with IST as you're continuing to grow, right? Because I don't think that growth is stopping anytime soon, just in the short conversation that we've had, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely been amazing to see that each year we've continued to grow pretty substantially. You know, last year we had a 50% increase in participation, which is like absolutely outstanding. You know, adding more locations each season and really trying to do so in a way that is sustainable for the organization, not biting off more than we can chew, and scaling up in a way that will be around for the long term. So, you know, looking to 5 years in the future, I'm definitely a dreamer. You know, I have a vision for inclusive ski touring that we're able to kind of offer programs across the country. Maybe that's not fully in 5 years. You know, right now we're looking at potentially hosting 2 to 3 programs in Colorado for the upcoming season, which would kind of be the first step towards this. That's still coming together. You know, we're having conversations with different potential partners for that. But yeah, you know, if I look 5 years in the future, there's, you know, back end sustainability, the boring side of nonprofits that, you know, I'm not an expert at, but getting better and better each year. And then there's the programmatic side where we really hope to expand geographically and be able to offer these programs at more locations across the country. So
That's awesome. That's really cool.
And we're doing the work to scale our organization slowly but surely. This year we've made some changes even just to the volunteers so that we can continue, like if we do grow, how do we grow in a way that is sustainable to the organization, where it's not all on one person sending out the communication to all the volunteers at every mountain. So I feel like that's a big win for us this year, is like making that adjustment. And I can see it in other ways too. Like our finances are dialed.
I know, I get so excited about our budget. I put a plug in and I'm like, nobody wants to hear about your budget. But like there's back end things that continue to improve each and every year. You know, you're talking about the volunteers, and as you well know, Sam, like this year we have volunteer coordinators at each specific mountain. So they help organize the volunteers at that mountain that are going to be there that weekend and help sort of manage the, you know, the location that they take on. So that's, you know, something we implemented this season in the, you know, spirit of future growth and sustainability, and being able to make this something that is actually possible to grow off of, and doesn't just put, you know, more on my plate every single week. It's pretty limited. And as well, you know, Sam is a volunteer here in a volunteer capacity, though she is, you know, the volunteer coordinator and does an absurd amount of work on that side of things. There's also, you know, it's not sustainable. Like we said, we have 85 volunteers, so you can't have communication with every single person and have that all going through one person, and to have that be truly sustainable for the long term. So, you know, we want to make sure that everybody has, you know, like our volunteers has the communication that they need, that they have the contact that they need, that they don't feel left out to dry. But we also need to do that in a way that is sustainable for the organization. So we're certainly looking towards the future growth and really planning on it, and just continue to try to, you know, take steps to be able to do so sustainably.
Yeah, it's definitely not the sexiest part, but at the end of the day, like those are the things that no one thinks about when it comes to like you guys running a nonprofit like this, and everybody sees the programming and they're like, oh, this is so awesome. Like you're getting people outside, you're getting them to be able to skin up and, you know, do all these things, you know, experience nature in a totally different way. But no one realizes that in order for all of those things to happen, all of the stuff inside also has to happen.
I mean, financial accessibility is a huge part of our programs, but on the other side of that, like our programs don't make up a third of our operating budget as far as the revenue that gets brought in. So again, like I'm not the nonprofit expert, starting to, you know, learn more and more each year. But when I started this, it wasn't any expertise in that side. So it's figuring that out, but also feeling super strongly as an organization that we want to provide that financial accessibility. We want to make sure that people can actually get out and afford to try these opportunities. You know, if we weren't a nonprofit and we decided to price everything differently or put everything back onto the participants, that's a different world entirely. But that's not the model that we went with. That's not what we're trying to do here. It's not about, you know, putting $1 in my pocket or $1 in Sam's pocket. You know, I am an employee of Inclusive Ski Touring at this point in time, and do need to be able to make something from it because it's turned into a full-time job and it's at a sacrifice of not working something else. There's still certainly sacrifices associated with that, as far as like with pay and work in this space. But it's how do we continue to offer these programs to keep things financially accessible while also supporting the back end to be able to sustain long-term growth. Even if it's not me working this position, someone's going to have to run the organization and someone's going to have to be paid to be able to do that. So we continue to try to just like put together the backside more and make sure that it's not just growing on the programmatic end, but also that we're really doing so sustainably. And so there's a lot of growth that people don't see, that I put a lot of time, that Sam puts a lot of time into, and it really sets us up for future success. So
yeah, speaking of for somebody who were to come to the program, what is the cost? And you talk a lot about financial accessibility. What does that look like for the participant?
Absolutely. So all of our on-resort programs cost $20. At the same point in time, that $20 can be waived by any single person. So there's a code listed right on every single program webpage. That code's inclusive 2026. Last year was inclusive 2025. Next year it'll be inclusive 2027. But that code is very front and clear. It's not like hidden away somewhere. You don't have to send an email, request special access. You just simply enter that code at checkout and we'll waive your program costs. There are rental fees associated with our programs if you need rental gear. That rental gear is not through us. As a smaller organization or the single employee of the organization and having programs at 5 locations, I can't be 5 places at once, and rental gear cannot be set up by volunteers. There's also, other aspects to that.
All kinds of liability.
So we instead work with partner organizations on that, be it different rental shops, on mountain rental shops or ski shops. But for each of those, we get special discounts for our participants. So they're able to get rental gear at a more discounted rate than they'd be able to get anywhere on their own. So we really try to provide the access as best that we can. With the intro to backcountry programs, those programs are more expensive. They're a permanent program. We do pay, guides, and they have a lot more fees. There's also group size limitations. So those programs go for $150 a person. Again, that's not including rental gear. That is well below the standard cost of a program in that space. But at the same time there, as we work towards, providing financial accessibility, we offer a robust scholarship fund for that program. So anyone who is looking to join that program, who, the cost side is going to present a substantial barrier for them, they can apply for that scholarship and they'll almost definitely get that scholarship to be able to join the program free of charge. So though we do need to charge more overall for those programs, and those programs do help support our on-resort programs, and there's a funding portion of that as well, but we also try to make sure that the scholarships are there and available for those who need them.
I also love that there's this model of paying it forward, and so a lot of people, they do that, you can pay for the next person to join the program, because we do have quite a few people who actually use the code and waive the cost. So.
Absolutely. And just like you're saying there, when you go to check out, there's sort of like add-on options. Say we're buying something in a store and it's like, would you like to add a warranty to this for an extra $10 or whatever?
Yeah.
Our add-ons are, would you like to contribute an extra $10 to help cover the cost for someone else? And so it's really amazing to see different individuals in the community show up and try to help support. Actually, 2 nights ago maybe, I was just looking at my email and I saw someone paid almost $100 for our women's program. That's a program that costs $20, and they chose to select every single add-on option. That I don't see very often. And I had to do a double take there, because I was like, wow, that is really incredible and so generous of this person, but they really wanted to help pay it forward. And I would imagine, sort of assume that they were in a place to do so, because they did select all those options. But that really makes things more sustainable for us on the long term as well. And it's so valued when people decide to help pay it forward. And it's also one of those like heartwarming aspects where you can see community, you can see people caring. And that's really special.
I get the warm and fuzzies about this organization, because I care about it so much, and it's just awesome to see. And I love, like I said, I get to read a lot about how much it means to people to have beyond, it's like more than outdoors. It's why we named the podcast what we named it, because it's more than just ski touring. It's there's so much more to it, and it's fun to get the opportunity to like see the impact that it actually makes for people, to build community, make friends, try something new that's out of their comfort zone, get outside, survive winter in Maine or New Hampshire, Vermont now. So it's pretty awesome to see how far we've grown to in the time that I've been a part of this organization, and how many people we're actually making an impact on now, and how many people want to be a part of the organization as a volunteer. It's just, there's a lot of exciting things that are making it happen, and how we can grow in the future too. So it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, you know, at the beginning, Sam, you mentioned something about like the organization that I've built, where there's phrasing, I believe, on that side of things. And, you know, like, sure, I had the initial vision for this organization, but I like truly feel in all my heart that it's everybody else who shows up that makes the organization, from the volunteers, the 85 volunteers heading into the season, from the board members that we have, such as yourself, from, you know, the participants who show up and bring that same sort of attitude, the welcoming aspect towards everyone. They know everybody's sort of like taking in or putting out the like ethos of inclusive ski touring to a certain extent. And I could have this vision, I could try to, you know, facilitate these opportunities, but if it, you know, other people didn't show up, if there wasn't other people who believed in this, who wanted to see these opportunities happen, then it wouldn't be anything. I mean, our women's programs are by far, I think 70% of our participants are women. I'm a guy. I'm like obviously not leading any women's programs. So like that's like other than setting up the back end and working to like make sure that these opportunities are there and to like help facilitate it like those programs are only possible from everybody who wants to be there, who wants to see those happen, who want to help provide those opportunities. And that is just like so magical for me to see. That's like what keeps me excited about things. And
Totally.
you know, the other side for me is like, there is an education piece for sure, and getting people out touring for the first time is cool, don't get me wrong, but touring still is like a small niche sport that frankly has a lot of privilege associated with it. What's really special to me is like the community that's developed. It's the friendships that are made. It's, you know, we had a volunteer training day this spring, and there's a couple volunteers who showed up, and I knew a few of them were like from Connecticut, and I'm blown away. I'm like, holy cow, you drove down from Connecticut to, you know, or drove up from Connecticut to come to this day. And they were like, no, we actually drove down from northern Maine. Yesterday we were at our friend's wedding. We were all bridesmaids at this wedding, and that person was another volunteer of Inclusive Ski Touring. So they had all met through our women's program, and they've become so close that when one of these individuals got married, all their bridesmaids were the friends that they had made through Inclusive Ski Touring. That really sticks with me. That's like, that's the community. That's, even if every single one of them stopped touring and never tour again, they have friendships that are going to last a lifetime. And the quality of friendships that are more than just, you know, surface level, getting together for a drink or whatever it might be, but really deep, caring human connection. And that's really special to me.
Yeah, it is special.
That's really cool.
We're braving the elements right now.
Yeah.
This is some
Those
outside.
Those warm, fuzzy stories really help when we're doing a winter filming.
Oh gosh, I'm so grateful that you're braving the cold with us right now, and hopefully the background noise isn't too annoying, because we are in Portland and there are quite a few loud trucks that have passed us.
Yeah. So we do this segment at the end of every episode.
Yeah.
Gets a little bit more insight about you, get some kind of quick-witted humor answers all thrown into one. We call it Voices from the Summit. If we were in a normal inclusive ski touring location, it would probably make way more sense. So we're going to pretend that we just hiked up. Let's pretend we're at one of your resort programs. So we went to Mount Abram today, and we just skinned up Mount Abram, and we're getting ready to do our descent. Right before all of a sudden we come out with these two pieces of paper where we're like, you know what? I think we're actually going to ask you some questions before we go down. So the first one, when you go touring, what's the one piece of gear that you will not go out into the backcountry without?
Outside of like key items like
food,
skis.
Assume you have the
I have
typical
the items
equipment
that I need to like physically go. A warm drink.
Ooh.
Like I'm a huge fan. Scratch Labs makes a protein mix, recovery mix. It's a 3-to-1 carb to protein ratio, and there's like 400 calories in every one. Except it doesn't taste like cruddy protein that you buy at the store.
Yeah.
It tastes like hot chocolate. And so I used to drink hot chocolate or like tea, and then I found this, and I'm like, I can get 400 calories that are like good stuff. I mean, it's still a drink mix, but like, you know, when it's really cold, I don't want to eat.
Yeah.
It's like really hard for me to eat in those situations, to be honest. So yeah, I'll bring a thermos with that in there, and that's like my absolute winning combination. My recipe
I
for
wish you brought
success.
some today. I need a little hot chocolate after this. Okay, your favorite ski conditions: packed, powder, or bluebird?
Ooh, um, honestly, for me, it's all about visibility. Like packed powder is fantastic, and I love it. But if I can't see what's in the snow in front of me, like
Hmm.
yeah, skiing is definitely my first passion. I did not grow up athletic, as far as like, I mean, I was literally like the last kid picked in gym class, but I've always known how to ski. In skiing, like, um, yeah, I'm good at skiing. I like skiing. So I like to ski fast, and I like to be able to really charge down the mountain. And
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I can't see like what the terrain's like a couple hundred feet in front of me, it ruins the not ruins the day, but it changes it entirely. I'm
Yeah.
too afraid to go into that situation too fast and then hit a patch of ice or something cruddy. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll take a blue. I mean, my dream day is bluebird with powder.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'll take pack powder with visibility over full powder, but like storm skiing and not being able
Yeah.
to see. I mean, that would like in BC when there's like 5 feet of snow or something, and I know it's all 5 feet of snow
Yeah.
everywhere. Like, great, I'd love that. No
Yeah.
complaints from my end,
Little
but that's
different.
not my reality. So yeah, I really look for visibility. I want to know that it's not complete ice and that I can see where I'm going. And those are
Yeah.
the days where I'm like, all right, we can really ski.
This will be a good day.
Yeah.
Cool. Uh, describe the future of Maine's outdoor recreation economy in one word.
Ooh, in one word. I'd say developing. And I say that because we have so many incredible opportunities going on right now, but look at the mountain bike side of things and the mountain bike trail infrastructure that's continuously being invested in to be able to grow. We're at an incredible place right now, but there are a lot of really amazing organizations that are still just like coming out of their shells or, really working to reach their full potential. And we have, a lot of outdoor recreation potential that's not yet developed or doesn't yet have the infrastructure to be able to do so, be that trail systems, be that, overall access. But it's an opportunity for us as a state to be able to capitalize more on the natural resources that we have overall, to be able to provide more development in those spaces and be able to drive more of, a recreation economy overall. Definitely, there's a lot of jobs in that space, and but for me, there's a whole aspect outside of it, which is like, so I went to school for economics, and there's like an aspect within economics that's completely unquantifiable to a certain extent, and that's really happiness. So you can quantify, the value of a timber field for what that is worth in like financial terms. You can't quantify the value of that outdoor space to the human pieces around to recreate and derive happiness from that area. And so we have an opportunity to provide a whole lot of happiness through the resources that we have. And I think that, a lot of that's still developing.
Cool.
Oh, I love that perspective. That's really cool. What is your post-tour ritual?
Ooh, like post IST tour or like post I had a really big day?
I guess those would be very different for you.
Well, honestly, they really look the same because mentally after an IST day, I like
Yeah.
sometimes I take on too much stress, and that's something I got to work on. And then a big day, I'm exhausted. Yeah, my favorite go-to after a big day is to kick my feet up, relax on the couch, or not get on the computer. If I can go out skiing and not do any work after, that's already an incredible day.
Yeah.
But like truly, the favorite is to like a post-tour sauna. My partner and I are lucky enough to have like, I mean, it's a pop-up sauna. It's basically an insulated ice fishing tent with like a wood stove in it. It's awesome. When we're no longer renting, like I'd love to build a sauna, but this works for now.
Yeah, does the job.
And I absolutely love it. I probably sauna, 3-4 days a week. But like after a good day of skiing, a good day when you're like cold to your bones, especially,
Yes.
and you like cannot get warm, doesn't matter what layers you have on. Like, yeah, I'll call my partner and be like, can you start the sauna?
Yeah, heat it
I'm
up.
gonna come home and just get right in there. That sounds lovely.
Oh,
That
that's-
text has already happened. He was like in his pocket. He's like sending the quick text.
Start the sauna.
Yeah.
I'm coming home before training. I gotta warm up.
Yeah. For real.
So last question. We talked about this whole like let's pretend we're heading, we're at the top of Mount Abram, but like for someone like yourself who runs these kinds, who runs an organization, you're facilitating all these programs, right? If we were able to welcome everybody to the summit, right? how do you paint that picture for like the experience that you want them to have, both on the way up, but then also on the way down too?
Like, what's the feeling that you want people to walk away with from our programs?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one, I want them to feel welcomed and seen. Like, I want everyone to feel seen. I want their experiences, their fears. I want, you know, yeah, I mean, their experiences and fears to feel seen, to know that they've been heard and recognized in sort of that capacity. I want people to feel welcomed. But I want them leaving just having a positive experience. Even if they didn't like touring, I want them to feel like they met amazing people out there. Like the volunteers were all nice and friendly. And like they walked away learning something new and at least having an experience that they're proud of or proud to have done, even if they decide, you know, that's not something I want to do all the time. So sorry, I'm getting a little chillier now.
No,
Yeah,
it's all
starting
right.
to get the
It's all
shivers.
right. It's all right. Well, on that note, fortunately, that was the last question. So we're closing up shop here. But thank you again so much for being able to come on the
Absolutely.
podcast, Zach. And for those of you, we will make sure that all of the social media handles are in the show notes so everybody can go and check out Inclusive Ski Touring. Hopefully you get set up in a program this year. I would love nothing more than to see you guys grow or continue to grow, I should say. But if you haven't already, make sure we're sitting out here in the cold trying to make sure that this content comes out for you guys. So make sure you're following, make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're liking, commenting, sharing, all that stuff. Show somebody who hasn't watched the podcast yet how these people are sitting out here in the wintertime filming a podcast, because that's what's important, right? We want to be outside. So thank you all for joining us on this conversation. And until next time, we'll see you outside.
We'll see you outside.